we go. College Football Payoff Podcast, Week 3,
Episode 60.
number 60. Wow, we're flying.
We've come a long way.
Long way. I'm Dan. That's Fuji. Coming back this week. I think this week might be like like the first 2 weeks you had some intriguing matchups. You were excited, ready to go. This week was kind of like lull. I looked at it.
This
I
was
was
a
like,
little low.
yeah, it was kind of off a little bit, especially we got kind of spoiled with Texas, Alabama last week. Some big games, big markets, stuff like that. But now it's kind of getting into, you know, shouldn't really see too many upsets win wise. But hey, there's still games out there that I see value in. So we're gonna keep rocking. Even if there wasn't value, we still keep rocking. We'd find something to talk about, right?
I'll be betting regardless.
Exactly. All right, so week 3. To recap real quick from last week, 2-1 for me, and I actually hit my money line audible undercall, which
Okay. The
the
Thunder.
Thunder Dome. Yep,
Nice.
the Iowa State Iowa under 36.5. That was fun to win. I also got Colorado -3, which we'll talk about. Well, I'll talk about later because Colorado right now I'm just going to keep riding them. Feel good with Colorado. Miami, Florida +4.5. That was easy. And then lost with Virginia Tech -3. Virginia Tech might be bad.
Grant Wells is their quarterback.
Yeah,
So, I heard a stat this week that the last 29 games, he's thrown 29 picks.
sounds about right.
Expect that to move to 30 this week.
Yep. So Virginia Tech's bad, but overall, going into week 3, sitting at 500 ball, 4-4 on the Thunder. So I might be. I don't know if I have one for this week. I might find one throughout the podcast when we talk about other games, but 4-4, not bad. As long as we're not losing games, we're good to go. So what was your total for last week? Your line for last week?
So unfortunately, 1-2 week for me last week. Better than 0-3. But I had UCLA -14. That was really never in doubt. Really like Dante Moore there, quarterback for UCLA. And saw Chip Kelly running a little bit of that, not wing T, but 3 running backs in the backfield. They'll be ready for Big Ten football next year.
Yeah.
After that, I bet Kent State versus Arkansas. I took Arkansas -38. There was really no chance for that to ever cover. Arkansas just came out flat, even though they won very easily. I think they were just playing their backups after the first quarter. KJ Jefferson didn't really dominate that much, and they knew this was a game that they didn't have to show up for. They didn't show up for it, and that's why we didn't cover Arkansas -38, even though they won easily. After that, probably the worst bet of the week for me across the whole board. Instead of winning week on my personal card, losing week on the pod. Auburn versus Cal over 54.5. Never a
Yeah.
chance. Thought we were going to have some fireworks from Jake Spavital as the California offensive coordinator and Hugh Freeze as the head coach of Auburn. Just never came. That game was 20 to 30 yard drive, punt, repeat. 20 to 30 yard drive, punt, repeat. Auburn ended up winning in the end. Cal covered, but the over was never in sight. So looking to bounce back this week. Aside from the picks, well, I'm 2-3 on the season. Let me check that. Or no, 3-5 on the season. So 2 games back from 500. Aside from the picks, what did you learn this last college football week about any team, anybody you watched?
Man, well, just starting off with Big Ten football, I mean, Ohio State's, like I said it last week, it's going to be kind of rough for them this year. Their offense, they can't. It's almost like they're having a lot of trouble with their offensive play calling, trying to move the ball. They struggled last week against Youngstown State of all teams, and that's a game where I thought we were going to see Kyle McCord kind of break out of his skin. Ryan Day did come out and say that McCord will be the starter for the rest of the year, which is good because when Brown gets in, he looks bad.
Well, and then also Ryan Day was playing the game of I want my backup to transfer, so let me try to act like this is a competition. I thought the whole time it was probably going to end up being McCord, but I heard really good things from Brown during camp, so I kind of put things up in the air again for me.
It's kind of crazy too because when you talk about camp, I mean, at camp at Ohio State, you should think like, well, you're playing against one of the best defenses in the country. You should be if you're having a good camp against that, then you shouldn't have a problem against Youngstown State. But and it's looking rough for them. And also, I mean, Michigan too, man. Michigan was a pretty high favorite, I believe, and I don't think they've covered their first 2 weeks.
No, they're just kind of out there doing their thing until Harbaugh gets back. They're not in any. I mean, you know how weak their non-conference schedule is, so they could be playing the third strings with no game plan and probably win the game. So, I mean, I think they're concealing a lot, and that I also think that's kind of what Ohio State's doing, concealing their playbooks, probably only running like 25% of the plays. Um, but yeah,
So I think Ohio State probably more than Michigan in that regards. Um, Ohio State, it doesn't look like they're running the plays that well, let me rephrase that. It looks like they're still running the classic Ohio State plays that they've been running under Ryan Day. It's just not clicking, and it comes from a quarterback not being able. Like he had the two touchdowns to Harrison were beautiful, and then Ibuka made a move and got his touchdown. But other than that, McCord just looks scared back there. It's almost like you got to have a quarterback in the system who at least has a threat to run the ball. Which, yeah, Stroud didn't run last year, but he was still a threat at some points. Michigan, I can understand. Uh, you know, not having Harbaugh is kind of the guy who, he's going to want to step on people's throats more often than not. I think he's even going throughout the suspension. He's like rolling with different head coaches each week, isn't
yeah,
he?
every half.
Yeah, so I can kind of understand that, but Big Ten, it's going to be a grind next year. I think. Looking ahead to the realignment, I think it's going to be fun. And then Texas and Alabama. Texas, man,
Man, without the long ball, they don't win that game. But
I know, but
Alabama's hurting for talent right now
badly.
compared to what they usually are. Not compared to other teams in the country, just compared to Alabama of the past.
Yeah, I mean, Alabama doesn't have a real threat at quarterback anymore. Everyone's trying to pump this kid's tires, but he didn't look good against Texas. And
No, they're going to try some. We'll get back to Alabama. I got something to say about them later this
perfect,
episode. I'll just
perfect.
rapid fire through some things that I learned from week 2. I learned that Illinois probably will have the farthest drop from a power rating perspective year over year for their defense out of any team in the country. Number one defense in the country last year, and this year, man, they are embarrassing. They got embarrassed by Kansas. Kansas might be back though, so but I'm way down on the Illinois defense. What else did we get? Florida State looked great. Tennessee, Joe Milton.
I always like Joe
I
Milton.
don't think I'm a believer after last week.
I know it sucks.
13 points in the first half against an FCS school.
Yeah,
You're ninth in the country. And what else did I learn? Utah's defense is going to keep them in every game that they play this year. Doesn't matter who starts a quarterback.
yeah. My buddy was texting me during that Utah game, sweating it out because he wasn't sure if Utah was going to pull it out and whatnot. But their defense is definitely what's going to keep them going. Is Cam Rising back or is he coming back?
It's still up in the air.
Man, that would be rough if he doesn't get back in time.
And finally, here I'm just scrolling through the games. Oh, FIU can win games if there's playing against a team with a really bad run defense. Um, just like they are this week against UConn. They tore up North Texas last week, so I'm down on North Texas big time now. Okay, you ready to get into this week?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get it going. I got three as usual. I'm flirting with the idea of the money line or the under bet, so we'll kind of go on the fly there, hot route it, but we can get it started. Do you have anything Thursday, Friday?
I am out on the Thursday and Friday games this week.
Cool, cool. All of my games are on Saturday as well, so if you want to start, do you want me to start? It's up to you.
Man, I'll start here.
Go ahead.
And wow, I need to say this line now before it changes. I bet it at minus 14 earlier this week. It's a little less valuable at minus 14 and a half, but you can still get it. And just like I said couple minutes ago how disappointed I am in the Illinois defense. We're fading them this week with Penn State. Um, I finally think Drew Alar is hitting his stride. I think he's finally gotten down what he needs to when it comes to receivers and who he needs to throw to. Um, Dante Cephas has not really done anything yet, but Lambert Smith has been his go-to receiver this year with almost averaging 100 yards a game. I know the game is at Illinois, but I really don't care. Um, I don't really see a huge home field advantage for them. And Drew Alar, man, I think he's just has this team behind him. I think James Franklin is going to run up the score on as many people as they can this year. I think with the SEC being so weak, the Big Ten, even if Ohio State doesn't make it to the Big Ten championship, um, I do think that the Big Ten could send two people or two teams to the college football playoff this year. And Penn State knows that their resume needs to be great going forward. Um, Illinois didn't really have that much success moving the ball last week against Kansas either, as Luke Altmaier had the longest play. He had a fluke 74-yard rushing touchdown. I do love the Illinois quarterback, but man, this Penn State defense is awesome. I love Manny Diaz as the defensive coordinator. And one thing I still haven't mentioned so far with this game is the 1-2 punch at running back for Penn State. After watching Jaden Daniels just run up and down the field against Illinois last year, I don't know how they're going to be able to stop this 1-2 punch. So give me Penn State minus 14.5.
14 and a half. Yeah, I mean, when I look at this, based off of history, right? Penn State, James Franklin. This is on the road at Illinois.
Yes.
Listen, James Franklin in games where he wants to make a statement, or it's perceived that he wants to make a statement. To me, it's more often than not that he's not making a statement. I don't think he's a big time coach. In 2021, when these two teams met, Illinois actually beat Penn State 20-18. I know that's probably something that'll be in their mind. Yeah, Penn State's won 20 of the last 26, but watching Illinois last week, that first half was atrocious against Kansas. Now, I do want to say that Kansas looks like they're turning into somewhat of a football school more often. Really, not
Compared to history.
exactly compared to history. That second half, man, Illinois did look better. They looked a lot better. They came out firing, and they didn't quit. So 14 and a half, the hook might scare me away on this one. I'm just not sold on James Franklin. And watching the way that Illinois fought last week, even though, there really wasn't a shot in hell for them to win that game, but they still fought until the end. I could see them possibly coming back at the end and, get something backdoor. But it's for me, you're fading Illinois. I'm never going to back Penn State and James Franklin on a
Yes.
side. So that's just how I feel about watching him over the years. And he looks kind of weird. All right. Uh, sorry. He does. He's a weird looking guy on the sideline. All right. My first game. Okay. So Northwestern Duke. At first I was looking at this. I was looking at the over, which is 48 and a half. Now this is 3:30. It's at Duke. I was looking at the over. I was thinking about the over, and then I started to come back a little bit off of it. Um, Watching that game, Duke or Clemson coming to Duke, getting their asses kicked. I think Duke is fantastic. Their offense is electric. I think that place is a tough place to play for opposing teams. Northwestern, we know who Northwestern is. I don't think that they're going to be a competent program for a few years, maybe more than a few years. Um, with this one though, I'm gonna stay away from the total. I'm actually gonna go Duke minus 10.5 or minus 10.5 first half spread. Um, I think Duke at home, man, they fire on all cylinders. When you have a team that plays like that in front of a crowd like that, it's a 3:30 game, so the student section at Duke. Yeah, the game against Clemson was prime time. This is close to prime time, so it gives them more time to get ready for this game. The fans, I'm talking like the student section,
Mhm.
not the players. Um, I love Duke's offense, man. Uh, Riley Leonard. I mean, last week who they played? They played Lafayette, which yeah, that's not a big time school, but he was 12 for 12 in the air last week. One touchdown, all this stuff. Running back Jordan Waters has been amazing. He's 112 yards last week, three touchdowns. They have Jaquez Moore back in the backfield as well. He had 72 yards and a touchdown in that game last week. They picked apart Clemson's defense, and Northwestern is, like I said, they're going to be a bottom of the barrel team, right? So you know, I can see Duke getting out to that lead in the first half. You only have to go up by two touchdowns, which I don't think is a problem. It could depend on coin flip, whatever. But I think Northwestern, maybe they get a touchdown in the first half. I think the second half is where Northwestern can kind of make it iffy if I'm taking the total.
Hmm.
And even with the spread being 19.5, I can see Duke kind of laying off the gas a little bit against Northwestern.
Yeah.
They wanted to play Clemson hard. They wanted to kick the shit out of Clemson to make a statement. I don't think they want to do the same to Pat Fitzgerald and Northwestern. So
R.I.P. Pat Fitzgerald.
sorry.
Whoever their coach is now. All right, man. I'm with you. If I
Yeah.
had to bet that game, I would take the first half. I decided to pass on the game. Love Riley Leonard. Just I have no idea where Northwestern really is as a program right
Hmm.
now. Last week was a little bit of a surprise, but maybe UTEP's just that bad. Um,
Yeah, I mean they could be, but to me, it's just Northwestern's not. They had that one year where they were kind of scary, but now I don't think that they're really in the fold for anything. So play with it what you will. But I like the first half in that one.
Perfect. All right, I'm heading to the SEC for my next pick this week. Um, it's going to be a really good game. It is at Mississippi State. They are hosting LSU. Um, I really loved what I saw out of LSU last weekend playing Grambling State. After getting embarrassed on a national level or a national audience against Florida State on in Week 1. Brian Kelly, one thing that really stuck out to me in his post-game press conference was he said about his own team that we are not the team we thought we were in camp. And I know that translated into practice the next week. Even though they were playing Grambling State, they came out firing. It didn't matter that they were playing an FCS school. They were on a mission to get back the credibility that they had preseason that they lost after Florida State. And from a power rating perspective, LSU winning 72-10 against Grambling State is not going to bump them up or down anywhere. So I still do think after that loss to Florida State that this is still a buy low spot for LSU. I still think they're a little bit undervalued. So I got them at -9.5 against Mississippi State. One thing that's very concerning about Mississippi State to me is in their post Mike Leach era over the last 2 or 3 years, all they've been doing is recruiting an offensive personnel that fits this air raid style offense. Um, once Mike Leach passed away and Arnett took over for him, they've went right back to running the ball with a personnel group that is not built or not recruited for running the ball. Something that was very alarming last week to me also was at home hosting a team in Arizona that we know has been down as a program over the last few years. Um, Mississippi State was +4 in the turnover differential there, and it still took them an over. They had to go into overtime to win the game. I don't know if it's a scheme problem. I don't know if it's a personnel problem, but I am currently down on this 2-0 Mississippi State Bulldogs team. And for that reason, I am riding with a hungry LSU team that is probably going to be on a little revenge streak for the rest of the year until they get to some big SEC play. So give me Jaden Daniels and the Tigers -9.5.
Yeah, and you know what? When they played last week, Grambling State, that 72-10, it was almost, I mean, shit, it was almost like a scrimmage for that team.
Mhm.
Um, Vin Daniel scares me a little bit, but I think in this game, Mississippi State's defense is all right, but they struggled against a mobile quarterback last week with Jaden DeLora. Now Jaden Daniels is more of a rushing threat this week as well. I think LSU's offense really won't have a problem. The only thing that I might see there being an issue with is that Mississippi State's defense could stifle them maybe in the first quarter, the first half, but
Mhm.
I have faith that LSU will be able to game plan around that. And then looking at Mississippi State's offense, I mean, Mississippi State was a team throwing it around 50 times or so, right? Now they're kind of changing their tune a little bit and they're running the ball a little bit more. LSU's run defense is stop like you're not going to be able to run against LSU. So yeah, I wouldn't back Mississippi State here. I like the pick with LSU. All right, let's see here. Okay, now my next two games. I mean, these are teams that are just absolutely on fire. I think, um, and actually in this game, it might be a case of a team that's on fire going into a team that just has issues across the board right now, like very very bad issues. 5 o'clock. That's Washington against Michigan State. I got Washington minus 16 and a half. I'm rolling with that. We all know Mel Tucker, right? He had that he's in the news now. Right.
He is in the news, whether you believe it or not.
So that's a I don't know what you call that.
Is that motivating or is that demoralizing?
That's demoralizing.
Okay.
Mel Tucker is the guy who, everyone on that team they everyone likes Mel Tucker. Like even if you don't
Do
play
they?
for him, hey, Tom Izzo game before he was talking to him like he loved the guy.
Hmm.
I think people love Mel Tucker,
I
and I
want to see
think
Mel Tucker do well.
I do too. See, that's what I'm saying. People who watch football like Mel Tucker. They
Hmm.
want to see him do well. And, this kind of coming on the heels of, kind of a lackluster games and all that. I think this is demoralizing for a team. Couple that with the fact that you might be playing against a Heisman hopeful, Michael Penix, and that Washington offense. I mean, I really, really like Washington's offense. I think they can move the ball around. They can score a lot of points. Um, and I wasn't high on Michigan State going into the season. I'm not going to be high on them until they show some kind of uh, offensive prowess. But this is just, I mean, this is a demoralized team against a team flying high with a Heisman candidate at quarterback who is just going to pick them apart. I think did Michael Penix play them when he was at
He played him
Indiana?
last year.
No, but yeah, he played him last year, but
Yeah.
he was at Washington last year.
Right. Yeah. They had a non-conference game last
Right,
year.
right. Did he play when he was at Indiana?
I'm not sure.
Well, he was on the team when I don't know if they played Michigan
Yeah.
State when they was there, but Michael Penix is no stranger to Big Ten football, is what I'm trying to get at there,
Yeah.
right? So it's not like he's coming in and not knowing what to expect going into Michigan State. He's played in that kind of climate. Um, it's just it's too tough of a spot for Michigan State here. Mark D'Antonio will return to be the associate head coach. You don't know what he's going to bring. I mean, that could kind of fire up some guys, but at the same time, this is a different era of football, so you don't really know. Um, I have too much faith in Michael Penix Jr. and Huskies offense. They're averaging 9.2 yards per play on the season. That's absurd. Uh, I think this could get ugly. I think it could be a 3 touchdown game here. So I'm rolling with Washington in this one. I got them at 16 and a half. And let's just hope that it's not too bad in East Lansing. But you might see some people leaving pretty early in that game.
Man, I don't. I like the pick. Um, I just I'm not sure. What scared me, the Mel Tucker situation is what scared me off of betting Washington this week. I don't know if they're going to play extra hard without their coach there or be demoralized. Who knows? But sidebar, our biggest preseason bet of Michael Penix Jr. over 3,700, 50.5 yards. Penix watch is at 859 yards right now
Through 2 games.
through 2 games. So we're looking good. We're on the right track.
I mean, he
So
might have a 400-yard, close to 500-yard game this
I
week.
think Washington has the best wide receiver room in the country
They
too.
really
That
do.
right
They're
now
so
they
good.
look better than Ohio State. Sorry, but
Oh, no, no. I mean,
yeah,
listen, on paper, Ohio State might have the best receiving class in the room, but when you get on the field and you don't have a quarterback who can distribute it, you're kind of limiting your wide receivers. So Washington has a quarterback who can get the ball to the receivers, and that's why I agree with you that their receivers are the best of the country right
yeah.
now.
All right. How many do you have already? Two?
Yeah, I got one more.
Okay. So for my last one, or actually my second to last one, because I got a bonus pick this week. Just
Oh,
quick
that's
bonus pick.
fun.
Um, at the end, but I said I was going to talk about Alabama later in the pod. Here we are. Another buy low spot for Alabama. Um, if they don't lose to Texas last week, this line's probably around at least 35, 35 and a half, maybe. Right now we're at 32. I bet it early this week at minus 31 and a half. So for pod purposes, we'll go minus 32. But there's just so many things at stake here. First off, this is a weird non-conference matchup between Alabama and South Florida, especially now that Alabama has to travel to South Florida. They're not paying South Florida $1 million to come in and get their ass whooped in Tuscaloosa. The reason they did this, in my eyes, is purely because Nick Saban wants to showcase his football team in front of the state of Florida recruits. It's easier to access them down there. So for that, for the reason of wanting to recruit South Florida so heavy for Alabama, I do think they're going to run it up this game. Another motivational factor, obviously, is losing last week to Texas. But for recruiting purposes, I think Alabama is in, and Nick Saban is not going to take the foot off the gas this game. I think this could be potentially a 50-point game in the end. And on top of that, South Florida still isn't too great this year. They struggled to beat Florida A&M last week. They lost by 17 to Western Kentucky in week one. And one more thing that really sticks out to me is that after Jalen Milrose played last week, I think all three quarterbacks are live to get playing time in this game.
Yes.
And all three quarterbacks know, hey, I got to ball out. This Milrose saying, I got to get my spot back, while Buckner and Simpson are sitting there like, man, we can really take this job over. So all three quarterbacks are going to be here to play. Offense is going to be firing on all cylinders. So you can catch me betting Alabama minus 32.
Yeah. Quarterback room right there. I mean, what you said probably nailed it right on the head there. The quarterbacks are on alert down there. Um, I've been trying to kind of with your picks, trying to see if I can poke holes, see if I can get at you a little bit. But this one, I am 100% with you. Nick Saban revenge game is all you have to say to me.
I'm scared sitting here.
I mean, it's dude, if you're the next team to play after losing like that at home, if I'm that quarterback, dude, I am scared.
One thing that I'll poke a hole in my own handicap then. The only thing that has me worried is through two games, Alabama's leading rusher is Jalen Milroe,
Hmm.
and he only has 92 yards rushing on the season. So I don't know if Alabama is noticing that and decides let's establish a run game. But even if they're going to establish a run game, which I don't think they will, because they're going to try to see what skill set all three different quarterbacks have. Let's just hope that they can run it down their throats if they decide to do that.
I mean, you can go two ways with that though. You can say their running game hasn't been productive, and Saban will really hammer in the running game this week, or you can say that because they pass so much, they're going to just throw through the air 50 times a game and they're going to put up 70, 60, 70 points against this team. So I think it's scary to be the opponent for Alabama this week, but we'll see. I like the pick though. That's one that I really do like. Okay. Let's see here. So my last pick, that was your last one?
I have
Oh yeah,
a
that's right.
bonus money line moneymaker this week.
Hey, look who's coming on board. All right. Colorado State. I'm going to roll with Colorado until they bite me in the ass, and I don't think it's coming for quite some time here. This game I'm not taking a side. I am taking the over 59 in Colorado State. Dion's out for blood, man. Wherever he goes, he's out for blood. Last week, he said it was personal, and I mean, it's his kid really is. an image of him. Like,
Man, I that is one thing I wanted to bring up on this pod. Man, I enjoy watching Colorado football so much. One, because they're one deep is star studded. But two, especially Shador Sanders, man, he moves so nicely in the pocket. He holds onto the ball forever too. Man, he's waiting to make a play, but it doesn't matter what's going on around him with the pass rush. He moves so fluently and so smoothly through the pocket at all times. It's so fun to watch. So
yeah, I
go on.
mean,
Sorry,
dude,
I
it's
just had to interject there.
his son though. Because Dion said something about I think it was their pregame speech that it's personal, and his son took it to heart and started mouthing off, and Dion actually had to like take him aside and be like, listen, like, relax."
I
He's like,
love
"Dad,
it.
it's personal." This is where I think Dion is going to try to just absolutely demolish Colorado State. Because is this considered a rivalry game
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
in
man,
state?
Colorado State's going to show up to play.
And listen,
Um,
Colorado. This is at Colorado. Colorado pulled in a nice crowd last week. I
awesome
honestly
crowd.
think game day might be there this week.
Game day will be there. Yeah,
This is
yeah.
prime
Man,
time, right?
just another sidebar. Pregame of Nebraska last week when they were yapping at Shador and he just showed him the watch.
Yeah,
That
dude's a
favorite
dog.
moment of the season so far.
But I mean, that's literally all I have to say. The only thing that I might get worried about with this over 59, which it actually I shouldn't really be thinking like this, but Travis Hunter, we know he's a two-way guy,
Mm,
right? I think Dion's come out and said like, hey, yeah, he's going to play two ways in games that big games and games that he should win, but like not games that they're going to blow people out. So that's where I'm kind of iffy. I don't know if he'll play two ways in this game for the entire game,
mm.
but I think I think Shadur is just going to go off once again. I think Dion's just going to keep the foot on the gas, give the Colorado. He always likes playing in front of his home crowd, whether it be a Colorado or Jackson State. Um, and I can see Colorado probably scoring close to the total on their own. And then you just mix in Colorado State having a touchdown, couple touchdowns here and there,
You're
but
locking it over. Good, good.
yeah, over
Yeah,
59.
I feel a lot more comfortable. I'll probably play that personally, to be honest.
I do. I'm gonna roll with Colorado
Yeah.
until they bite me.
I just hope whatever side of the ball that Travis Hunter is on,
He does
he
something
just
to help
does.
your Heisman.
Yeah, help that 400 to one Heisman for me. I had a new cash out, updated cash out offer from FanDuel. I have it 400 to one. They're currently offering me 4.5 to one. So that's a
Okay.
no. So but yeah, man, great pick. Man, I really like watching Xavier Weaver too. He's awesome to watch. And then Jimmy Horn Jr. still Dylan Edwards, man. I'm excited to watch these guys this weekend.
Yeah, for
And 10
sure.
p.m. kickoff, right?
Yep, that's gonna be one where I'm looking at my listen. Last week I did well. Saturday college football I did well. Sunday, let's not talk about that. First week of NFL, I kind of got a little too big for my britches. But Saturday night, those late games after you have a nice deep card, and then you could just sit back and enjoy this one. Oh, it's gonna be a great way to end the night.
All right. You ready to get to money line, money makers, or bonus picks here?
Yeah, what do you got?
All right. Everybody knows that I'm a West Virginia fan, diehard West Virginia fan. Biggest rivalry in West Virginia history is back this weekend. The backyard brawl. West Virginia last week. Even though they lost, they gave Penn State a good week. One game. That game was 31-15 until like the last play of the game almost. So pretty misleading final score. Came back last week and just absolutely demolished FCS opponent Duquesne. And Pitt, on the other hand, they won pretty easily week one, but against Wofford. But week two, last week against Cincinnati, ended up getting upset. I think this is two teams trending in different directions. I think since this game's in Morgantown, this is going to be a crazy environment for West Virginia. Um, Pat Narduzzi, head coach at Pitt, loves to talk. Um, It's not like Neil Brown doesn't hear it. He may not acknowledge it, but I know they hear it in that locker room. This is going to be an absolutely crazy environment. Currently, the odds are um, they're even right now, so we are probably a minus 110 money line. I'm not sure it's not popping up on my odds screen here, but here, let's see. West Virginia, I can get at. seeing -110, -110. Yeah. All right. Oh, -105 here at Bet Rivers. All right. West Virginia money line -105. Take it to the bank. Um, Man, it's a crazy environment night game. It's the backyard brawl, baby.
You going to that game?
Indeed.
That's always fun. And hey, you're bringing the good juju to him, so that's gonna be a fun game to watch. Backyard brawl. All right, money line. I mean, yeah, I don't know if we call this. We could do money lines or we could do Thunderdome. Um,
Well, is it an under or is it a
I'm looking at a lot of like I was looking at money lines today, and for some reason, when I was looking at all the money lines, all I kept thinking about was unders. I don't know why. It just kept clicking in my head like, dude, you could take the under in that game. What are you taking the money line for? So I'm like, you know what? Fine. Let's give everyone what they want. Under 39.5, Virginia Tech Rutgers. Yeah, it's 39.5 all the way across the board.
Mhm.
Virginia Tech, like I said, they're bad. I really don't like Virginia Tech at all. Rutgers, they're bad. I don't like their offense at all. Is it still Shiano?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Man, I like Rutgers this year. I sidebar might bet them -6.5 against the spread.
That's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not an official pod pick, but you're leaning under here?
listen, I'm not saying that they're not going to score point. I'm not saying that they're not going to win the game. I just don't think that either team is going to look very good doing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm taking the under 39.5 in that game. Thunderdome is back. Um, yeah, in that game, I mean, I couldn't take Virginia Tech to win it. If I were to look at something for money line in this week, let's see, I got Minnesota UNC. No, I'll take UNC in that. Like I said, man, this is that one week where it's just kind of it's like lulling you to sleep. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It was
Uh,
hard. It was hard to find edges for the Wednesday.
Dude, is there anything else out? James Madison over Troy maybe at plus 106. Uh, UNLV over Vandy possibly. That's plus 159. Purdue and Syracuse. No, I think Syracuse wins that. Was that the game last year too, where there was like insane like personal foul penalties that kept pushing like
Oh
Purdue?
yeah, actually, I remember watching that game live last year. Purdue should have won that
I
through and
had
through,
Purdue.
and
I had Purdue money line in that game
they
last
screwed
year.
themselves. Yeah,
I remember that.
I'm actually thinking about betting Syracuse this week too against the
Yeah, I
spread.
think I think I'll take Syracuse in that. Um,
Yeah, we ready to rapid fire through some of these games that maybe
yeah, start going. I was just looking to see if there's any money line value out there, but yeah, let's go
perfect.
through whatever you see, whatever you want to go with. Let's roll. What do you got?
Might end up taking Maryland over Virginia. Um, Still don't like what Virginia's doing. They covered against JMU last week, but I think that's more of a testament to how you know a drop in JMU's power rating. Um, Whatever Tua's little brother at quarterback and that head coach of Maryland are. I mean, I think they're a really good duo, and I think Maryland has a chance to run it up this week. Um, what else? Florida State might be looking at a full game cover, at least a first half there. I bet them first half last week. That was never in doubt. Kansas State, Missouri. That has turned into a Kansas State lean to a no bet for me. Missouri has a crazy motivation factor this week. They know what's at stake, and I don't hate Missouri's quarterback too much. Louisville, Indiana. We'll finally see what team Louisville wants to be this year. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think Indiana's that great of a program, but at the end of the day, this will probably be the toughest test for Louisville so far. Um, what else do we have on this
Louisville,
docket?
Indiana. I was looking at taking the under in that game too, though. 50 and a half. I'm not too. I don't know. I don't think that that game is going to be very good. Like you said, I don't know what Louisville is, and Indiana. Indiana's Indiana. They'll try to run the ball. They won't be competent with passing the ball. I might lean the under in that. Uh, Ohio, Iowa State. Uh, I'm taking Iowa State -3 in that one for sure.
I don't. That was the next game I wanted to say. I'm excited to watch Curtis Rourke, and he's good when he's in the game. He's good, and Iowa State's down after getting beat up by Iowa last week.
I know, but when Curtis Rourke is healthy and he's in the game, he's good.
Yeah,
He's been hurt for the majority of his last few games played. I mean, I'm not too, it's coming from an athlete's perspective. When you get hurt, you only have a week to recover, a couple weeks to recover. I don't think he's fully recovered. I think he's struggling. And yeah, Iowa State got beat up, but they're also a team that's going to beat you up.
yeah. Um, Notre Dame. This might be a good fade spot with Ohio State next week
Yep.
playing Central Michigan. I'm really excited to see Oregon State play San Diego State this year. If Oregon covers that 24 and a half, Oregon State covers 24 and a half, they might be the real deal in the Pac-12. And unfortunately, I mean, the Pac-12 is a great grand finale for the conference that's going to be disbanded next year. But unfortunately, I don't think a Pac-12 team makes it to the playoff because there's so much talent. I think they end up cannibalizing themselves.
South Carolina plus 27.5 against Georgia.
I mean, they came out and beat them 3 years ago. So, but I'm still not a huge fan of South Carolina's defense. One very interesting matchup that I think personnel-wise are complete opposite would be Minnesota versus North Carolina.
See, and I was looking at that game this week too, but I was uncertain about it, so I didn't take it.
FIU UConn. I think FIU with their explosive run game is live to maybe have an upset there over
That's
UConn.
another game I was looking at money line wise.
Yeah,
So
I might, even though it's so
I mean,
hard
they
to bet.
got it opened at 10. It's now down to 7.
Yeah. So
Seven and a
man,
half at some places.
maybe the only value left for me is to bet FIU money line because it sucks to lose those 3 points. But FIU, it sucks. It is hard to bet these bottom tier teams in the FBS, but when you see an edge, you see an edge. So I'll probably end up sprinkling that. Um, what else? Appalachian State, East Carolina will be a good game. And aside from that, I'm not really. There's nothing really jumping out for me. Oh, Tennessee, Florida, obviously. Man,
Yeah.
if Florida's at home, it's in the swamp. If Florida can catch them off guard and make Joe Milton work, they even with how bad they looked a couple weeks ago, they have a chance here to pull off the upset.
And it will stay. I think it stays within that 7 point. Well, it's at 6.5 now, but I think it stays within that.
Me
I'll
too.
take Florida in the points.
Yeah, I don't think this ticks up to 7 or 7.5 because
It opened at 7 and it's at 6.5
down to 6.5. Yeah, but I don't think it goes back to 7 because
I think
Florida's at home.
I think it stays in that number for sure. Miami of Ohio, Cincinnati. I think that's going to be a snoozer. I don't think that game's going to be very good. So I might take the under 47.5 in that.
And really, the last game that sticks out to me here is that I think could get interesting. Texas after last week. I might take Wyoming plus the 29 here. Texas is in a huge letdown spot after winning a huge game last week. In Wyoming, the way they play football, slow, ground and pound. I don't know if Texas will be able to get up by 30 points in this game. Just from the way Wyoming plays. So that's all for me.
Yeah, Bowling Green, Michigan. Michigan's a 40-point favorite, and that's actually ticked up to half a point. Like I said, I'm not going to take Michigan until Harbaugh's back, so I might go Bowling Green, give me 40 points there, or take the over 51, whichever one you want. Clemson, I'm staying away from for the year. TCU, Houston. TCU is a 7.5-point favorite right now. I might take TCU there. And then Kansas, Nevada. Kansas is 27.5-point going on the road to Nevada. It's up to 28 now. No, I'm going to stay away from that as well. Arizona is favored against UTEP, 17.5 points. Dude, I think I'd take UTEP minus 18 or plus 18 in that game. Yeah.
I'm done with UTEP after last week.
Well, I'm done. I don't like Arizona. So.
All right. Ready to review?
Yeah, let's review them real quick.
What you got?
All right. So this week we're going with Duke minus 10.5 first half against Northwestern. Washington minus 16.5 against, I'm sorry, Michigan State. I was looking at the wrong card. And then the over 59 in Colorado State, Colorado. And then my Thunder pick was, let me find it real quick because I did not write it down yet. I'm stalling. Why don't you go ahead and talk and then I'll find that and write it down.
No problem. My card this week at Fuji Bets on Twitter, or I guess X.com, would be Penn State versus Illinois. Penn State minus 14.5. Alabama versus South Florida. Alabama, we're going to get it minus 32 for the pod. LSU at Mississippi State. We're going to take LSU at minus 9.5. Damn, just realized these are all away teams. And my last pick, bonus pick, money line, money maker, West Virginia at home. That's minus 105.
There you go. Yeah, I like that. And then my Thunder pick, Thunderdome, is under 39.5 in Virginia Tech Rutgers.
I like it.
It could be a nice week,
Man,
man.
if we can go 4-0, that'd be a nice boost.
That'd be really nice, wouldn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah, so and I promise you I will not blow all my winnings this week
On the
on
NFL.
the NFL.
Survivor pick this week.
Survivor pick this week. Is it a homer pick? But the Browns against the Steelers, man. The
Damn
Steelers are bad. Steelers are
Steelers
bad.
aren't bad. Matt Canada's bad.
Well, the Steelers also have problems. George Pickens liking a comment that says Kenny Pickett throws too many interceptions. Is it Cam Hayward is getting
Hurt.
surgery and then
Yeah.
Deontay Johnson not playing?
It's Pickens time. Pickett to Pickens.
I don't know. Pickett is making fun
Pickens
of him
better
for
go
throwing too
on.
many
Pickens
picks.
better go unlike that shit.
I'm going Browns.
All right. I'm going Bills.
Yeah. Oh, against who?
Oh shit. You're putting me on the spot. I looked at it earlier this week. Bills play. No, that's one. Oh no, they play the Raiders at home.
Oh yeah,
9.5
definitely take
point
that.
favorites.
I don't
And
know,
not
dude.
like
Josh Allen looked bad.
I don't. They're playing the Raiders.
Okay. All right, cool. You got anything else? You want to hit them with the socials real quick so we can
Okay,
get out of here?
follow Dan at DOSK13 DPOS13 on Twitter. Follow me at FujiBets FUJIBETS, and most of all, follow the pod at CFP_pod.
Right, you can get the podcast wherever you get podcasts, really. Spotify, YouTube, we're everywhere. Shout out Billy. Billy, my boy. He was hitting me up about the Thunder. He loved it. He was rolling with all my picks except for Colorado last week. That hit. I made sure he heard it, but shout out Billy. All right, I got nothing else, so that'll do it. I'm Dan.
I'm Fuji. I almost said Big Country.
See, look at that. I'm Dan. That's Fuji. We'll see you next week.